You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com. New York, the glitz, the glamour, the exciting Mutt-tropolis, the sparkling kitty city that never sleeps. Step onto the sexy streets of animal attraction that is New York City. Welcome to Pets in the City, Life in the Urban Jungle. Join host Diane West as she explores the exciting lives, loves, and laments of the people and pets in the world's greatest city. Pets in the City, like the city itself, has something for everyone. Celebrity pet sightings, hot events, and news and reviews with the hottest movers, shakers, and tail waggers in New York. So get ready to get dressed to the canines and take a bite out of the Big Apple with your Pets in the City host, Diane West.
Hello, all you cyber cats, kittens, canines, and creatures under all creation. This is Diane West from Pets in the City, coming at you from the greatest city in the world, of course. That would be New York City. How are you? I'm thinking this episode of Pets in the City is really going to be extremely educational for you. I know it was definitely educational for me. The bad news is New York City, as you know, being one of the largest cities in the country, if not the world, gets tens upon thousands of cats and dogs and actually quite a number of other things surrendered to their New York City shelter system every year, tens and thousands upon them. Unfortunately, in years past, more than 50% of these poor guys got put to sleep because there just is simply no room for them. However, that changed in the early 2000s with the creation of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals, headed by President Jane Hoffman. We're going to be talking with her a little bit more about what she does and what she's been able to accomplish in 9 short years, which is really quite extraordinary. We'll be right back.
This is a Pelham Bay Park-bound 6 local train.
All right, this is my stop, Commercial Boulevard. Yeah, that's funny. Pets in the City will be back in a New York minute. Don't go anywhere.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Coast to coast and around the world, it's Oh Behave with Arden Moore. Find out why cats and dogs do the things they do and get the latest buzz from wagging tongues and tails in Rin Tin Tinseltown. From famous pet experts and best-selling authors to television and movie stars, you'll get great tail-wagging pet tips and have a fur-flying fun time. Oh Behave with America's pet edutainer, Arden Moore. Every week on demand. This is the place for a special paparazzi treat. Only on PetLifeRadio.com. Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, all you yuppie puppies and city kitties, Pets in the City is back with more urban animals and cool cosmopolitan critters. Try saying that 3 times fast. Right, Diane?
Yeah, as I was saying, you could just imagine that unfortunately the shelters here still continue to be flooded with a lot of cats and dogs who just simply, for whatever reason, ended up without a home. I can't even begin to tell you the breadth of how many reasons cats and dogs come into the shelters. Anything from, I'm moving to, some of them get confiscated during the course of crimes. It's just incredible. So unfortunately, the end result is a lot of them, and as I said, tens upon thousands of them end up in the shelters. And we just don't have the place for them to go. So we have an innovative program here called the Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals, which, as I said, it was started in the early 2000s, and it's headed by Jane Hoffman, who is president, and she has been able to do some extraordinary things, and to the point that the New York City Mayor's Alliance template may indeed be used for other templates for other cities. I had a conversation with Jane, very frank one, and as you can imagine, not only is there a lot of good news, there are, when you're working with that many people and that many groups, she works with over 100 groups, you will have your challenges, and there have been a number of challenges recently with some of the founding members of the Mayor's Alliance for New York City Animals. Two very large groups that had been founding members are now going through a number of changes. And we also had a very scary outbreak of a weird disease at one of the Brooklyn shelters. So I had to sit down with Jane, and she really was quite frank about talking about all these things, the triumphs as well as the challenges. Let's sit down with her. Okay, Jane, so I'm just going to start, I guess, by having you tell folks that may not live in New York City or who may live here not familiar with the Mayor's Alliance a little bit about the history of the Mayor's Alliance and what it is that you are and what you do.
The Mayor's Alliance is a group of animal rescue groups and shelters that came together. We started in 2003 was our first full year of operation, and we have founding members who were basically the brick and mortar shelters in New York City and one of the foster care kennel vet groups, City Critters, along with the ASPCA, the Humane Society of New York, Bark Shelter in Williamsburg, and Animal Haven in Queens. And we came together to form a not-for-profit organization, and it is working with the City of New York towards the day when no New York City cat or dog of reasonable health or temperament is killed simply because he or she does not have a home. Our efforts basically focus on animal care and control of New York City, which is our open admission shelter, or city shelter, even though it actually is a private not-for-profit. It has a contract with the City of New York to provide animal care and control services to New York and New York City. And we work with them because they have the animals at risk, and we are basically transferring animals out of animal care and control to our member groups, which range from ASPCA down to smaller mom and pop groups in the 5 boroughs to help get them adopted. So that transfer effort, as well as the direct adoptions to the public from animal care and control itself, is really what's reducing euthanasia in New York City.
And now, as far as the Alliance participating organizations, how many do you guys have now?
We have over 100 organizations that we work with. Most of them are what we call Maddie's Pet Partners. They are groups that are working on getting animals adopted, and they are partners with Maddie's Fund, which is our major grantor. We got a Maddie's Fund grant in 2005, and our plan under that grant is to make New York what's called a no-kill city by 2015. So we secured the grant in 2005. We have a 10-year strategic plan that was submitted at the same time that we applied for the Maddie's Fund grant. And what we mean by no-kill is that exactly what I said before, that we don't kill cats or dogs of reasonable health and temperament simply because we don't have homes for them right now.
Now, that's one of the things I definitely wanted to talk to you about. Define no-kill. Now, that's one of the questions that I'm constantly being asked about no-kill. Now, no-kill, as you said, is a animal of reasonable health and temperament. There are some that ask me, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean, you're not going to adopt out a vicious pit bull, or, I'm sorry, Rottweiler or Chihuahua? Let me not
Good catch.
There. Or health, unfortunately, if animal.
Yeah, well, basically, under the Maddie's Fund definition, it's healthy or treatable. And that means that healthy both temperamentally and physically healthy, or treatable, that it's something that if we treat it, they could get better from it. And, basically, exactly, it doesn't mean that no animal is ever euthanized, but they are euthanized in the true meaning of the word, which means they are either too ill or injured for us at this point in time to be able to save them, or they are too dangerous to other animals or people to safely adopt them out. We would hope that there comes a time when those animals can be sanctuaried, that we will have so completely dealt with the problem of completely healthy and treatable animals being, able to be adopted or with our spay-neuter efforts to never be born in the first place, that we will be able to, sanctuary these animals or have the medical resources to help them. But at this point in time, the cats and dogs we're focusing on are those that are considered healthy or treatable under Maddie's Fund's definitions.
So a no-kill or no euthanasia rate is actually what percentage of animals coming in that would be euthanized, and how many would be adopted and how many would be euthanized?
Well, let's put it this way. In 2002, the year before the Alliance started, or the year it was forming, our first full year of operation, as I said, was 2003. The euthanasia rate, or the kill rate, whatever number you want to use, and we always look at it as total intake. So of all the cats and dogs, the total intake that went into ACC, we were killing, and I use the word we because it's the community that's doing it, not just that individual agency that has that task. We're killing 74% of the cats and dogs that went into animal care and control. By the end of
2002 and prior to
2002.
Wow.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I mean, I'm just basing it off of the year before. I could go back and get those percentages, but I think the important thing from my point of view, because of the way we've structured this plan, is in 2002, 74% of all the cats and dogs that went in were killed. The end of last year, 2008, we had reduced that to 39% of intake. So you can see that's a pretty dramatic reduction, but that was by building an infrastructure that was going to be able to be sustained. So really what we've been doing is building what is really a large marketing and distribution plan or network. By that I mean you need to get the animals out of animal care and control to the other agencies, their partner agencies, the other alliance members that would then be able to get them adopted, would be able to advertise these dogs and cats available for adoption, get them out to a larger market, essentially. And that's the way we've done that. Our plan is to have reduced euthanasia by 5% every year till we get down to the point, and we'll know it when we'll see it. It's sort of like pornography in the Supreme Court. You're going to know it when you see it. It's,
Well, and now that's I guess why I was asking that question, because no kill means, something different to everyone. So thank you for, defining what that means as far as the Mayor's Alliance in New York City is concerned. I guess another thing I wanted to ask was, you have a kind of unenviable position where you have to kind of corral, like you said, 100 plus, community groups who all have their own, shall we say, take on how to adopt dead animals. Would that be fair to say? Mm-hmm. How do you keep them together? How do you just keep them from not, revolting or become colonies of, New Jersey or something?
Well, I think that was really, we did a lot of, building of relationships at the beginning, actually prior to us having the large Maddie's Fund grant that we eventually got. And we did that by just doing things that were, as we put, in more complicated speak, tangible manifestations of our collaboration together. And that was, we created these orange Adopt Me vests that have, they're like the orange mesh that the guys who work on the highways wear. And it has patches on the shoulder that say "Adopt Me" in yellow with black lettering, and it basically, we gave those out to all the groups so that all the dogs would be wearing that. So every dog for adoption in New York City from any group would supposedly be wearing those, either when they're being walked from their foster homes or whatever, or they would be, at events. And the other thing we did is we had mass adoption events in Central Park that would bring all the groups together, and they would be able to see each other. We gave them grants to buy the same kind of equipment, the white tents that you often see in green markets. They all had to have T-shirts identifying their groups. They'd all be using the orange Adopt Me vests, and it gave sort of a uniform appearance. It also allowed the groups to meet each other because there really was no forum that most of them came together in. Mm-hmm. So it was a chance for them to meet and see each other. It was a chance for the community to actually see all these groups working together. We then got one transport van, so we were beginning to transport animals from animal care and control that the groups wanted to whatever facility they were using if they needed it. Obviously, the bigger groups like the ASPCA didn't need this, but the smaller groups did. We also had training sessions because part of what we're doing is trying to professionalize what these groups are doing. They're already doing good work. We just want to make them better and more efficient at it.
That's a very important point because, like, when you say marketing, a lot of people grew up with and probably still have, I found an animal, let me give it to the crazy cat lady on the block over there. But really, that is, in effect, a rescue person. And a lot of these smaller groups really don't seem to know how to market or get out there in an effective way that they do have animals for adoption.
Exactly. Really good point. I mean, just the fact that we had them all with these white tents they had to have banners with their logo, their name, their contact information on it. They had to have this, the T-shirts, and just the idea that you have to get your name out into the community because the community isn't going to be able to support you or know they even should be supporting you if you don't, create a presence. So that was part of what we did, how to market themselves, how to do better adoptions, how to, just get the word out about themselves and their animals. No, that's one of our core objectives, really, basically, is we have 4 core objectives in the 10-year strategic plan, which we're happy to share with anybody. But it's to increase adoptions, which, seems like a no-brainer. But, what we meant by that was getting animals into, innovative new venues where we could get them in front of the public. So it was using the city parks, which everybody uses. It was using Madison Square Garden for the Adopt-A-Cat event we do in connection with the cat show. It was doing Broadway Barks in connection with the theater community in July. It was the second objective is to decrease homelessness and by that we mean promoting responsible pet ownership, microchipping, licensing, making sure people know they need to provide lifetime care to the animal, and it's also increasing spay neuter in the feral and the pet community. The third one was raising awareness, which was about the groups themselves, but also the animals and their care. The first time we had the Central Park event, I would be standing there listening to all these people go through saying, I can't believe these are shelter animals. These are great animals. And I didn't even know I had a group in my neighborhood. Yeah. And then the fourth and final core objective was really providing resources to the group, strength training, making them better at what they did, what we just discussed.
And finances, obviously, as well, to get stuff. Now, it hasn't been without its bumps, like anything that grows. Let's face it, one of the lightning rods has been and continues to be the ACNC, because I guess just by virtue of the fact that they must take any animal that's surrendered to them. Now, with the Mayor's Alliance organizations, some of the criticisms I've heard, let me just throw 2 out there, and they're very different. One is that sometimes the groups will come in there, like, I don't say, like ABC Rescue will come in and, quote unquote, this is the term I hear, cherry pick the most adoptable animals, leaving the ACNC with the most problematic animals, and therefore, making them, unfortunately, put them to sleep. So, I mean, that's one criticism I heard. And then another one, I guess more recently, was, and you know about this, but, one of the groups was saying that they had alerted the city to a health problem that was happening in the Brooklyn shelters, and because it wasn't caught in time, dogs were adopted out to upstate New York, that their shelter had to be quarantined. So I know those are 2 different problems, but did you have any comments on that? Yeah,
the first one is the cherry picking is, I don't think, interestingly enough, I don't think the groups feel that, and I don't think the ACC feels that. I think what happens is, there's certain animals that come in that are certainly probably more quickly adoptable, and every group wants to have that. But the ACC did somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 adoptions last year, and we did transfers were somewhere around 13,600. That's what's making the difference in reducing euthanasia. I think that the people who are responsible for having to kill or euthanize the animals are just happy they go out the front door on 4 feet. I think that there's always going to be certain animals that, ACC would probably want to keep for adoptions, and one of the groups, ABC Group, would want to get out because they think they have the perfect waiting home. But I think this is just one of the constant tugging back and forth. And what I'm just happy about is that everybody's rushing to get that one cat or that one dog. That's great. I think the groups take an enormous amount of animals that need substantial veterinary care after they get them. So I do think it balances out. I'm sure in the heat of the moment over one animal or the other, there probably are harsh words spoken, but that doesn't break the basic working relationship. And that's the important thing. I think, while I care about each individual animal, I think everybody does know we're trying to keep our eye on the larger picture, which is reducing euthanasia to, this year from 39 down 5% more. So
Right.
we can continue on our goal. I mean, this is a multi-year plan. This is not anybody who thinks it can go whatever they mean by no kill overnight is deluding themselves. You must do this in a slow build, programs with substance that are sustainable. That's the
Well,
only
you
way.
yourself said to adjust the, you bumped it up, right? Was the original goal 2010 and now it's 2015?
No,
2000.
I love this.
2008 or something.
These numbers people keep bouncing around, and I think where they come from is early on when we started in 2003, in our great naivete, we thought we were going to get the Maddie's Fund grant like the next day. It then took 2 years and about 20 years off my life, in fact, to get it. But the first grant cycle that Maddie's Fund had set back then when we were applying for it was 5 years. So in 2003, as I said in our naivete, thinking we would get it, that's where I think the first number of 2008 came from. 2010, I have no idea where anybody ever got 2010 because once we got, that's a mystery to me. Once we got, I'll own 2008, but 2010 I have no idea. 2015 is the date because it's a 10-year plan. Maddie's Fund currently has a 7-year funding cycle, so we will receive funding from 2005 through 2012. We have been putting away a third of everything we get from Maddie's Fund to fund the last 3 years of our plan when their funding will have gone away. So our plan is 2015. I have no idea where 2010 came from.
Okay, no, it's just I think I didn't see that one too commonly, but I saw 2008 and then I noticed you guys were 2000.
Yeah, that was in our enthusiasm. We thought we would get it right away, and it took us 2 years, as I said.
Now, all right, so we got that. Now, what about the health situation? Again,
that was a very, fortunately Cornell has been working with ACC, Dr. Jan Scarlett from Cornell Vet School, who actually is one of a Maddie's Fund recipient for shelter medicine program up at Cornell. What happened was there was an outbreak of strep zoo, which is a very deadly and very quick illness that strikes dogs. It actually comes from horses, so we're not quite clear where it even came from. But what happened was some of the animals had been transferred out prior to them really being able to identify what it was. And we had other animals that went out to other Alliance members, none of which actually had any animals that were transferred to them during that period of time die, thank God. Many of them already have isolation procedure protocols in place, which actually we encourage all groups to do. When they take an animal out of animal control, they really should isolate them until they're, convinced that they're healthy before they put them in their general population. I'm not sure exactly what happened with this upstate group. They're not a member of the Alliance, so we were not as involved with that. And, I'm sorry. I understand no dogs actually passed away, which is a blessing.
Right.
I'm sure they did incur some costs, but that's kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately, a lot of times. And I'm kind of surprised if they're a shelter that they didn't have ISO protocols in place.
So, you're just, not to make a pun, but you're saying it's the zoonotic diseases or the nature of the beast there.
That's terrible, but we'll let you get away with it.
I know, that's bad.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
It's just, it was a particularly nasty. The good news was it's a very fragile bacteria, and it's a bacteria, not a virus. You can kill it fairly easily. It's also, the other good news is it's extremely susceptible to penicillin, which is not a particularly expensive drug. That was the good news. The bad news is it kills almost without warning, and it happens very, very quickly. So do I wish they caught it earlier at ACC? Yes. but I think they did catch it, and then I think they did do what they needed to do. But, it's one of those situations where I think the takeaway from that is we need to, set up a better maybe crisis communications protocol. This just has never happened before, something like this.
Right. So has it helped you guys put into place, I guess, something to...
Yeah, we're actually working on it right now. Actually, the ASPCA and the ACC and the Alliance are all trying to figure out what's the best way to have handled this. I mean, I did send, once I had really concrete evidence from Cornell, they had written a very useful just sort of description about the disease and what had happened, and which we sent out to the Alliance and what you should be doing. And that was sent out to the entire Alliance members, participating organizations, telling them this had happened. But, the thing you want to be careful about is you just don't, jump before you really know what's going on. And, until Cornell could confirm what was going on, we were sort of at a standstill about what we should be doing.
Right. So, yeah.
Also, the good news is none of the dogs at ACC, beyond the several of them that had died prior to them being able to identify, no animals died after that. And it doesn't jump to cats, thank God. So.
Yeah, that would be another. My
that
goodness,
would be a nightmare. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because the cats outnumber the dogs, I believe, right?
Yes, completely. I mean, actually, in our plan, where we are getting to the point is it's become apparently clear that cats and some of the larger breed dogs are really more of an issue for us at this point. And cats, both free roaming, stray, and what would be considered really feral. And the only way to do that is going to be with the ferals is to trap, neuter, return our way out of this, and to bump up spay-neuter for owned cats, as much as possible. We actually have calculated that we need somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 spay-neuter surgeries in New York City to start to stop the intake rate.
Wow.
And to start to reduce it.
I had read not necessarily that New York, actually wasn't New York, but I had read somewhere that some shelters are saying, you know what, we're just not even going to count the cats because there's just too many of them, and we're just, unfortunately, the implication was the euthanasia rate you hear about for the cats is probably artificially low because they don't count anymore. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but...
Here?
No, not here, but, in the
right.
country, not here in New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really unfortunate attitude because, that I think that to a certain extent comes out of the fact that by law some animal controls are not required to take cats because, animal control originally originated or was created because of rabies, to combat rabies in dogs. And, there's dog licensing. There's not a lot of cat licensing, which I wouldn't recommend anyway. But, so I think a lot of... Yeah, exactly. It's another whole conversation. I think cats have to be included into this. And fortunately in New York City, cats are.
All right. So just, I guess, to dovetail a little bit into, your continuing efforts toward no kill, the definition of no kill as established by the Mayor's Alliance in New York City. Now, Animal Haven, which was one of your founding members, has now gone through some changes, and they used to take in all animals. Was it true that they took in pretty much all animals, and now as part of the changes, they're going to start being more discretionary?
No, I think that was a miscommunication. Animal Haven has never been an open admission shelter. Never.
Okay.
The only open admission shelter in New York City is Animal Care and Control, which by law is required to take all animals that come to them. All of the others are what we call limited admission, which means they can pick and choose who they take in. Animal Haven did take animals, as do all our other groups from ACC, from the public, and, I don't think they ever went out and rescued from the street like some of the groups do, but, they did take from the public. But we're never an open admission shelter. That was a bad miscommunication on their part, I think, if that was coming from them, that they were somehow changing their status. They never were an open admission shelter. So what's basically happening is they are closing their Flushing shelter, which they've been doing a very good job about transferring and adopting out and most of the animals there were cats, I understand. They're cats. They will then continue their operations with just the Soho Adoption Center and their adoption van. They will continue to take from the public on the same basis that they took before, which was basically, just like the ASPCA and BIDOE and Humane Society have intake days for the public for which you have to make an appointment. I believe that's the way Animal Haven will continue to do that as well. That was their policy before, and it's really not changing. They just won't be in Queens anymore. And, my response to people, if they're annoyed at Animal Haven or angry at Animal Haven, I would suggest that the agency or the entity they should be annoyed with is the city for not having a full-service shelter in Queens.
And actually, that brings us to something else. I appreciate you answering a lot of these questions, because these are questions I get from people various means. But now that brings us to Stray from the Heart, right? That's actually they actually are suing the city because there are not enough intake shelters, I guess, in certain parts of the boroughs. Is that
Well, Animal Care and Control now has 3 full-service shelters. They have one in Manhattan on East 110th Street. They have one out in Staten Island on Veterans Boulevard, and they have one in Brooklyn on Linden Boulevard. They have an intake center, which is only open a couple of days a week in Queens and the Bronx. I have not read the papers for the suit, but it's my understanding that they are bringing a claim that the city is in violation of the law that would have required them to build full-service shelters in all of the boroughs, which would have been obviously the Bronx and Queens, and that they are in violation of the law, and they're suing them for damages for not having them open.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think that there, would be nice to have full-service shelters in all of the boroughs. I think that, again, it's a money issue, though, and it's my understanding that the budget for Animal Care and Control, which they get through the health department, has been cut by at least $500,000. It may be an additional $500,000 for a total $1 million cut in their budget. I think they can barely run their 3 shelters, full-service shelters, on that now. I'm concerned what would happen if they had full-service shelters in all the boroughs. My concern would be if we're going to do that, then there needs also to be sufficient funding to run those shelters as well.
Now, this kind of also leads to, if we have our hands full already with the animals that, we have, and more than full, I will bring to you, I guess, my final problematic question that I've got about, we have a lot of animals as it is. We even have to the point where some of the rescue groups are Stray from the Heart, in particular, is suing the city, saying that, look, you're not doing a good enough job. And yet, at the same time, you have places like North Shore Animal League, which is part of the Alliance, and I actually just saw something from the ASPCA this morning, shipping in puppies and other animals from rescue mills and whatever. That's one of the things I hear that drives people crazy. They're like, why are we shipping in puppies? And I think the ASPCA is looking for a shipment of Shih Tzus and other dogs from Tennessee and things like that.
Well, I think you got to make a distinction between getting dogs from puppy mills, which neither of those organizations do, and accepting dogs that have been rescued from puppy mills that have been busted, thank God. So it's my understanding, though, again, I don't know, I haven't really looked into that, but the brief thing I read about it is those are actually dogs that are coming from a puppy mill that was, thank God, closed in Tennessee. Now, those puppies have to go somewhere. The South is actually very far behind the Northeast in controlling their overpopulation with humane means. They don't have enough spay-neuter. A lot of these puppy mills are located down there. So, again, we're in a situation where we do have a market for smaller dogs and puppies. Do I want everybody to rush out and go get them? No. But when a rescue situation presents itself and it's a question of all these puppies die, or do they get taken by groups that probably can adopt them out to very good homes, I'm not going to tell these groups what to do. One of the reasons the Alliance works is that I don't control the internal operations of individual organizations. If they're doing something that's very problematic, I'm going to probably talk to them about it. But, a rescue of puppy mill puppies, I'm really not going to argue about that. And with respect to North Shore is doing so much to support the effort of the Alliance in New York City. I can't even begin to tell you. I think we have, I don't know how many of their vans we're using this month for our I Love New York City Pets Month adoption drive. But they give us completely free of charge the use of every weekend of at least one, if not two or three, of their mobile adoption vans, which we then parcel out to the groups who then choose areas in their neighborhood that they bring their animals out in a nice surrounding in front of maybe a PetSmart or in front of a local store that wants them there to get their animals adopted. So as far as the New York effort, North Shore is being incredibly supportive. They also pull animals from animal care and control, and if any of the animals they've adopted out do end up in animal control, by and large they take them back. Do they work with rescue partners in the South? Yes, they do. They also do spay and neuter prior to placement, so it's not like they're importing a problem that's just going to then, explode on us somewhere else. If the other thing you have to realize is this is American. People want what they want. I'd rather them adopt an animal from a shelter than go to a pet store and buy one. Because we have 25% of the shelter. There's an estimate nationwide that 25% of the animals in shelters are purebreds.
Mm-hmm. It's just amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah, and if they're getting them from pet stores and then dumping them later in their lives, which they often do, unspayed or neutered, and with all the attendant health problems that brings on, like mammary tumors and testicular cancer, I'd rather have them get those dogs from shelters where they're already microchipped, spayed or neutered, and they won't be just sold to anybody who comes in and wants to buy one.
One of the, I think, unique things that the Mayor's Alliance does is you also work with the purebred rescue groups as well, and even have like a working relationship with the purebred rescue groups and Westminster when it comes here every February. I have to tell you, some people absolutely scream at me because I cover Westminster, and they're like, "How can you be covering purebred dogs? When there's so many dogs in the shelters?" I mean, do you ever get criticisms like that too?
Well, we have a very close relationship with the Cat Fanciers Association, which has a very responsible policy about spaying and neutering any cat that is not, going to be a show cat. In fact, the current president actually is a feral cat person. So that's why we do the Madison Square Garden show with them. That's how that started. And that's a very successful show for us. We usually adopt about 200 cats over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. No, I have one of your cats in my house, actually, from that show.
Yes, from that show, probably.
Yes.
And then, and our purebred groups, I want every purebred group that wants to join us that does rescue, because I'd rather have, again, if people want a purebred dog, I'd rather have them adopt them from a shelter or a rescue group that specializes in that breed. Like we have Metropolitan Maltese, and if you want to adopt a Maltese, a small white fluffy dog, I would rather have them go to Metropolitan Maltese Rescue and rescue them than go to a pet store and buy one. So and again, I just go back to this 25% of the animals in shelters are purebred. If those folks, those rescue groups want to step up and rescue their breed and they spay and neuter them prior to adoption, that's fine by me. We don't have that close a relationship with Westminster at this point, and I do have problems with the AKC because I think that the way they register dogs is actually what's supporting puppy mills in this country. But I think Westminster as a celebration of dogs is a wonderful event.
Yeah, no, because you did have some I'm thinking just you had some protesters outside this year, and I'm sure other years as well.
Well, the other thing that you need to know, about the Alliance is our mission is to spay, neuter, to adopt, to reduce euthanasia. That's it. I don't talk about other issues, and I don't even talk about some issues that people think, why aren't you talking about humane education? Why aren't you talking about, pets and apartment legislation? It's because this is an alliance with a very difficult mission. That's what we need to focus on. If there's individual member organizations that want to go off and do other things, like the ASPCA and the Humane Society, both have lobbying and legislation departments, and they do a lot of great stuff. That's wonderful. That's not what the Alliance does. So we don't talk about many things like pigeons and carriage horses, all of which are close to my heart personally, but as the Alliance, we're silent about that. Our mission is to increase spay-neuter, increase adoptions, decrease the killing of cats and dogs at the shelter, period.
Mm-hmm. Now, and particularly this month, you're probably, happy to see that it's what I Love New York City Pets Month, that kind of working relationship kind of manifesting itself to the public. Tell me how that's going so far.
So far, it's going great. We had an opportunity to be on the Mike and Juliet show with Kim Saunders from Pet Finders, who just wrote a wonderful book called Adoption A to Z, which I would urge everyone who was looking to adopt to read. I think it's from adoption through what you can expect to after you've adopted a cat or dog. But we went on that with four of our four dogs. One was a purebred beagle from the Humane Society of New York named Valentina, in honor of Valentine's Day, I guess. And there was a small pointer mixed breed dog who had a broken leg and was in a foster home and with a group waiting to get better to be adopted. We had Deke, who's this wonderful German Shepherd mix who's blind, a special needs dog who's with Herding Dog Rescue. And then Rocky, who is a male senior pit bull who lost his home because of a divorce. But he's the best dog. I mean, he's a bomb-proof dog. He's just wonderful, and I'm hoping somebody steps up and adopts him. But we've been having the North Shore vans all over the 5 boroughs, basically all month, every month, several of them. There's been a lot of special events that have taken place. Kitty Kind did an event, and the Maddie mascot showed up to support and the adoption of senior cats. So it's been going well, and the groups have really continued to pull an enormous amount of animals. I don't think we've ever taken less than 1,000 animals out of animal control every month. I think we hit an all-time high in January. But it's progressing. And this, again, we're hoping that the public really steps up and shows some love to the cats and dogs.
Now, is that kind of counter to what we're seeing in the rest of or hearing in the rest of the country as well, that the economy is forcing more people to give up their pets? Or are we once again, as New York, bucking the trend?
Not really. Unfortunately, there have been a number of relinquishments, but oddly enough, or fortunately enough, adoptions seem to be holding up. So I think there are people adopting, but there are a lot of folks who unfortunately are having to relinquish their animals as well.
Jane, just to sum up, and again, I really appreciate you really tackling some of these harder questions that people have in their minds. I guess to sum up, what, Jane, keeps you, Jane Hoffman, up at night, and what do you wish would happen so that you could get some sleep?
I wish it was 2015 and we had, reached the point where all of the cats and dogs that are healthy and treatable we're able to find homes for. I hope that spay-neuter, which is the ASPCA is doing a wonderful, wonderful job throwing an enormous amount of resources into it. They are now running 5 mobile spay-neuter vans. They have one Sunday or 2 at Berg Memorial Hospital when Berg is closed. They're having mass spay-neuter for rescue and feral cats. They will probably be opening up a stationary clinic at some point in 2010. I hope all those efforts really get traction and we can get the level of spay-neuter that we need in the city, really in place so that we can reach our goal by 2015, which I'm confident we can.
What do you think the New York City public in general can do to help with those efforts? I mean, even people that might not necessarily be in the market to adopt a cat or a dog, or there are exotics too, right? There's rabbits and there's parrots.
There's wonderful. We have a wonderful rabbit group. I mean, I talk about cats and dogs because that's what Maddie's Fund is focused on. But we have bird groups, we have rabbit groups, we have smaller pocket pet groups. What I wish the public would do is, if they do have a cat or dog in their home that they did not get from a shelter and or rescue group is not already spayed or neutered, to really seek out some of this free or low-cost spay or neuter that's now available in the city at the Humane Society of New York or the ASPCA. We're doing a free spay-neuter for cats at the Brooklyn shelter. The Alliance is this weekend with generous support of PetSmart and Petco. Seek out spay-neuter because that's what we need. We need these animals that are not gotten from animal rescue groups or shelters. We need them to, get spayed and neutered so they're not contributing to the problem.
And even if you don't need, if you're all set with your cats and dogs in your house with spay and neuter, I've often, heard it even in my own building, if there's an elderly person or someone on assistance that you can tell them, hey, there's a free spay clinic for you.
Yeah. If you've already taken care of your little tribe, your little herd, really reach out to your neighbors and even the wider community and urge people to get their animals spayed or neutered because, even if you don't care about the cats and dogs themselves, it becomes a quality of life issue with, stray cats or stray dogs. And, people can address that by just urging their neighbors not to if a cat has not been spayed or neutered and starts spraying or exhibiting what you consider an objectionable behavior, but the cat thinks is a perfectly acceptable behavior, not to throw that cat out. That it's a very simple fix to get them spayed or neutered. So don't, people really need to know that they really should not abandon their cat or dog. If they absolutely cannot keep it, they really need to bring it to the shelter or try to rehome it themselves, because putting it on the street is really bad from a public health point of view, from a humane point of view, and really is retarding our ability to reach our goal.
No, exactly. So thank you, Jane, for visiting with us today. And can we visit with you again in a few months, see how things are going?
Sure, I'd love to. Come and check in with us. That would be great. And thanks very much for taking the time to talk to us and find out what the Alliance is up to.
No, thank you, Jane.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So, yes, as you can hear, there are extraordinary challenges to being Jane Hoffman. However, if you look at the stats before the Mayor's Alliance and you look at them now, whether you are looking at them with a critical eye, even you could still see that there has been tremendous change for the benefit of the animals, which is great. We'll be right back to see what's happening this month, February, which has been deemed I Love New York City Pets Month.
This is a Pelham Bay Parkbound 6 local train.
All right, this is my stop, Commercial Boulevard. Yeah, that's funny. Pets in the City will be back in a New York minute. Don't go anywhere.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Greetings, human. What planet am I on?
Welcome to Pet Planet. Here's a copy of Pet Planet magazine, Florida's most informative and fun pet resource magazine. It features heartwarming stories and informative articles from local and national pet experts.
Excellent.
Pet Planet magazine offers Operation Planet Rescue, helping rescued pets find new homes. And it's available at 500 locations in South and Central Florida and 24/7 on the internet at petplanetmagazine.com. If you're out and about with your pet, you may be featured in Paparazzi, candid pictures of you and your pet. For up-to-date pet-friendly events, activities, and pet-related services and products, Pet Planet Magazine is your final destination.
I shall take this magazine home with me.
Back to your home planet?
No, to my condo in Boca.
Pet Planet Magazine. Check them out at www.petplanetmagazine.com or 352-394-8578. It's out of this world.
School's in session on Pet Life Radio with Teacher's Pet. Learn how to communicate with your pet, train your pet, and see the world from your pet's point of view. You may even learn a few tricks yourself. Teacher's Pet, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, all you yuppie puppies and city kitties, Pets in the City is back with more urban animals and cool cosmopolitan critters. Try saying that 3 times fast. Right, Diane?
And I wanted to thank Jane for making the time for us. She, as you can imagine, she is a very, very busy woman, really working tirelessly for the animals here in New York City. And I really use that term quite literally. I see her everywhere, just really trying to help the animals out. So that'll about do it for this episode. I wanted to let you guys know that if you did want to go adopt an animal this month, again, this is called I Love NYC Pets Month, fitting for February, the month of love and Valentine's Day. There's still a lot of cool events going on, and you should log on to animalalliancenyc.org and you'll find out all about them. That's ANIMALALLIANCE NYC.org. Definitely check out the Pet Life Radio website, and I'll put that up there too. And of course, New York Tales will bring you the number of other events that are going on as well. We'll list the I Love New York City Pet Month events as well, but also, all the other fun, cool, happening and hip things that are going on. There's a lot of art gallery fundraisers and other kind of fun fundraisers. One thing I have to say about the fundraisers in New York City, especially with pets, is they are so creative. I mean, you think that they came up with the fantastic idea one day, and then boom, next day they really surprise you. So they really put the fun in fundraising, I must say. Anyway, that'll about do it for this episode of Pets in the City on Pet Life Radio. Again, thanking Jane Hoffman for visiting with us. Stay tuned next week for our next installment of The City Pound. Victoria and I are having so much fun doing that, sitting down with these really cool musicians and talking to them not only about their work with animals, but, also their work in general. So stay tuned, and we'll have another episode of that for you next week. Otherwise, for the time being, this is Diane West, publisher of New York Tales magazine here in New York and host of Pets in the City on Pet Life Radio. Thanking our sponsors for keeping us on the air, and how you can help our sponsors keep us on the air is, of course, please visit them and take a look at their products. A lot of them are very cool. And I thank my producer, Mark Winter, who, of course, always puts up with me, and I do appreciate it, Mark. Shout out to you. And I will talk to you guys next week. Until then, take care.
New York, the glitz, the glamour, the exciting mutt-tropolis, the sparkling kitty city that never sleeps. Join us each week for Pets in the City with your host, Diane West. Celebrity pet sightings, hot events, and news and reviews with the hottest movers, shakers, and tail waggers in New York. So take a bite out of the Big Apple with Pets in the City. Every week, on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.